Hey everyone, thanks again for listening to another episode of our Life at the Lake Campus podcast, where I've been interviewing a few different students here about a diverse range of experiences that they've had getting through the Lake Campus. So today I have Kelsey Nichols with me. Kelsey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Kelsey is from Rockford. She's a senior in our ISS program, which is our Integrated Science Studies. So, Kelsey, would you mind just kind of starting off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Kelsey. I'm from Rockford. After I graduate in the spring, I will be going to medical school in Tennessee for the next few years to hopefully become a family physician in the future.
That's awesome. That's why I wanted to have you on today because I haven't had very many students actually go the medical school route. So, first off, congratulations on that. That's awesome news to hear. But before we get there, I kind of want to touch on the ISS degree. So, you were telling me before we actually sat down and started recording it, this has only been around for a few years. I know it's relatively new. What exactly is the ISS degree about?
So ISS stands for Integrated Science Studies. If you choose this major, there's three pathways. There's a pre-health pathway, environmental science pathway, and an agriculture pathway. So if you go into ISS, you have lots of options for degrees. I know one of my friends is taking a bunch of agriculture classes so that she can do agriculture business one day. Another one of my friends is actually going to teach after college with her environmental, like with the environmental path, just because she's getting a lot of science classes. And then the pre-health pathway, I'm going to medical school, but I know another student who's going to PT school with this degree.
So, in terms of how you've approached things, what was your path like? What were the classes that you took? And you said you've been here for 3 years. Did you do some stuff like in high school? How did that all go?
So in high school, I took all of the college credit classes that I could. So I had about 30 hours coming in. Just that way I knew that I wouldn't have to take as many classes in college. So like a lot of my basic classes and core classes I took in high school. And then once I got to college, I just had all my science classes basically. You have a few biology classes, chemistry classes, physics, and then with the pre-health track, that's where we take anatomy and microbiology and stuff like that.
All right. So then, since you had that experience as a CCP student, what were some things that you would consider to be like really important to a new student coming into the Lake campus?
Coming into Lake Campus is, I don't think, as daunting as going to a big college because everyone here is local for the most part. But I think something that's really important is getting involved in campus. There are lots of clubs and lots of activities that are going on all the time, and it's just really nice to get involved and interact with other students because even though you're most likely close to home, that way you're still like talking to your peers and then you can get help in classes and etc.
And just to kind of add on to that, not only is it going to be a way to talk to peers and get help, it's also just a way to kind of break up the monotony of going to school. Like I know I've been involved in trying to get a couple things like the trivia night that's coming up going. I know we have a spring picnic that's going to happen. We just go eat some burgers and dogs. So a lot of ways to just kind of interact with people and let loose a little bit. So now to get into the med school stuff. I don't know much of anything about this entire process or what goes on. So talk to me like I'm a fifth grader. Tell me what was the process of trying to pick a med school that you felt was right for you. How do you apply for it? How did you hear about it? Is there like an interview process? What all happens?
So I guess we'll just start from the very get-go. I started job shadowing and volunteering throughout college. Like I even started in high school, but especially once I got to my freshman year of college, like I really focused on that because it's huge to have volunteer work and job shadowing hours, experience, clinical experience, and research experience. It really helps you getting into med school. So that's what I did kind of my freshman year, I guess technically sophomore year. So then junior year, I have to take the MCAT, which is the test that you have to take to get into med school. So I studied for that throughout my junior year. Yeah. And then I took that in the spring of my junior year. And then application processes start like May of my junior year. So I applied to like 4 different schools. I researched a bunch of different schools. That way I figured out which ones I wanted to apply to. There's MD programs and DO programs. I applied to DO programs only. and I just applied to ones that were either close to home, where I was like, I would be okay traveling that far to go to that medical school because I really like it and I think I'd be a good fit there. And so I applied and submit my applications in June, and then you wait a long time. And I heard back from schools like in August or September, and then I got an interview in October, and then I found out within like 3 weeks that I got accepted into LMU in Tennessee. And so then now we've just been going from there, and I accepted it, and I've recently been getting all the documents I have to fill out.
So what was that interview like then? What kind of stuff? Did you have to go there to interview, or is it like virtual?
No, it's all virtual, and I think that they've, like, it used to be in person, but then once COVID hit, they did virtual, and now they've, like, everywhere I think is pretty much still virtual. And so it was like we started at 8 in the morning, and I was with like 60 other students, and their like admissions crew talked to us for a long time, and then we would split off into groups. And so I interviewed with 2 faculty members and then 3 students online, and then we were done by like 1 p.m.
Okay, that sounds kind of similar. My grad school experience is more like a day-long interview where you go around and talk to all the different faculty members and you meet with some students and stuff. But I know for grad school, or at least in the psych route, it's more of a you sell yourself a little bit, but they also are selling themselves on you. So it's kind of the same way in med school.
Yeah.
Okay, so backtracking a little bit, what were your volunteer experiences and your clinical experiences? What kind of stuff did you do there for anybody who might be looking to get into that?
I think that my volunteer is probably a little bit different than most students because I got a lot of my volunteer work from coaching sports at Parkway. I have younger siblings, so I coached a lot of volleyball and basketball and now softball with my younger siblings, so I used that as my volunteer work because I never got paid for it. They say it's good to get volunteer work in the medical field. I just never looked into that because I work in the medical field. So I work as a phlebotomist at Coldwater Hospital, and so that's how I get all my clinical experience is working.
All right, and then also another question that popped up just as you were talking. Could you maybe explain a little bit of the difference between the MD and the DO programs?
Yeah. So MD stands as like Doctor of Medicine, I think, and so they, well, I guess I'll just explain the DO, which is a Doctor of Osteopathy. They focus more on holistic views, and they will like focus on how the body can heal itself and the whole body picture instead of just like what's wrong with you, we need to fix this. So they're a little bit more hesitant to prescribe medicine is kind of how I explain it, because they can you're like, well, if we adjust this part of your body, then like that'll fix the problem, instead of just like, let's just give you medicine to fix this issue. That's kind of how I explain it.
Okay. So then once you start med school, what's the future look like for that? How long do you think it's going to take? What all do you have to do to kind of complete everything?
It's a long process still, which is why I decided to graduate early. So I have 4 years of like college. We do 2 years in the classroom, and then we have 2 years of rotations, and then I graduate, and then I'll do, it depends on what specialty I go into. So it's like 3 to 5-ish years of residency where you're technically a doctor, but you're still under someone. For me, it'll probably be like 3 years, but for someone who goes into a really hard specialty, it could be like 7 years. So I have like 7 to 8 years still before I'm like officially a doctor, like on my own.
At least you got plenty of time then. So, all right. So you were also telling me before we started recording that you work in Dr. Melanie Marshall's lab. So I didn't know about that until then. So maybe can you explain what's going on there? How did you get involved with it? I guess first. So I know some of us who are running research labs kind of take different approaches to getting students in there. How did you get involved, and then what do you do for Dr. Marshall?
So I my second year was the first year that I had her, and she said like the first day of class, she was like, I need help in my lab if anyone's interested. And so obviously I took that chance after class. I was like, hey, like I want research hours, obviously. And so she's like, yeah. So I've been working with her for the last 2 years. She's doing a project looking at the phosphorus contents in manure samples and water streams. And so I've been helping her like titrate all the samples to precipitate off the phosphorus. And so it's been a long process, but we're at the very end of it now. Yeah.
So then what's the end goal? You guys are at the end of it. Do you have any like presentations lined up, or what are you going to do?
Well, we're gonna have a poster at the symposium in April. I don't know if we won't have all of our results by then, but we do have some results, so we can at least present something.
That's awesome. Like the symposium is a really cool thing because we have like just such a range of presentations going on. There's a lot of students, a lot of faculty involved. So I'll definitely be stopping by there. So, all right, final thing I usually like to wrap these little interviews up with is I ask if you have like one big piece of advice to give any students who are just starting off, what would it be?
I think one of the biggest things when going to the Lake campus is finding things to do outside of school, which I think is big going to any college, but especially here. So, getting involved, like I said earlier, and I think that working is a great thing to do when you're going to the Lake campus because especially if you live at home, you have a little bit more time and a little bit more leeway. And I mean, I came to the Lake campus because I didn't want to be in debt. And so working, I feel like I'm making money while I'm going to college, and I'm not going to have all this debt one day, which is amazing. Like, I don't need any more debt than what I'm already going to have. So I think I just like doing things outside of school to get your mind off of it, because if you focus on school 24/7, you're probably going to go crazy.
That's some great advice. Like school is definitely daunting no matter what your major is or if you have a job or not. So definitely find those couple extra little things to kind of take your mind off it. All right, that's all I have for you, Kelsey. So you did awesome, and again, like congrats on getting accepted in med school. That's awesome to hear. So we're going to wrap things up there, like usual. If you guys have anybody that you want me to interview, shoot me an email and let me know. Or if you have any other questions I should be asking, I'm always open to any suggestions. And I will talk to everybody with our next episode.